Welcome to the Middle Sisters, where we dive into the middle of everything. I'm Afton, and I'm solo today. I thought I'd do a podcast without Mitzi because she is at work all day. I have been traveling for a couple of weeks, and I just keep having this gnawing feeling, record. So here I am, solo. I wanted to touch base with my audience about my journey as an author. So I've been writing as long as I can remember. My mother would come to our bedrooms at night with a little journal, and she would ask us about our day, and she would jot notes down, and then we would add different things about how we were feeling. And my mother did this for a couple of years, I believe, and there was probably three of us children, Wendy, Rob, and me. And then Wendy and I shared a room in junior high around Colorado Springs location where we really got into writing. I remember we had a couple of snow days, and Wendy would say, "Come on, let's go to our room and journal." And from junior high on, I started journaling. So I really believe in journaling. It gets those thoughts out of your head and you try to make sense of it. So I've written 3 memoirs. One is called Enduring Miracles, about my late husband's battle with valley fever. Valley fever turned into cocci meningitis, and he had 16 brain surgeries. So we dealt with this illness as a family, me, my husband, and 3 children. And I had to put it in writing. So I would write it in my journal and I would talk about it. I feel like talk therapy is the best kind of therapy. And if you have good friends that can listen, lend an ear, that is the best kind of therapy. So I decided to write it in a memoir because it was unbelievable. We endured miracles for sure. My second book was Enduring the End. I said to my late husband, Juan, I'm like, I really need to publish this book, but I don't know how long you're planning on living. He didn't either. He kept waking up saying, why am I still here? So I kept putting off publishing the first one because I wanted to do the ending as the end of his life. But he hung on for a couple more years. And so then I had to put his end of life in a second book called Enduring the End. Then in the last 10 years, I've been journaling and writing about the process of grief and how it is different for so many people. And I attended some grief support groups. I was on a Facebook support group talking to other widows and people who went through similar circumstances. And the journey is not easy. Grief is hard, death is hard, but having faith, nurturing faith that we will see our loved ones again and that we can keep moving forward was something I needed to put down. I wanted to get a clinical counseling degree, so I got 15 credits from ASU and decided that wasn't what I wanted to do in my mid-50s. I'm still fascinated by counseling, but I'm resetting my life right now. So this last year, I published 3 children's books. The first is The Blonde Volcano, and it was an inspiration from my own childhood. My 3rd grade teacher, her name was Miss Izaguirre, and she would call me the Blonde Volcano. Now, as I put it in my book, I tried to be respectful to students, but, when you're growing up in the 70s, certain things happen at school that embarrass you or make you feel insecure. So I think just being a shy child already, I would turn red in the face. I didn't like eyes on me. And Miss Izaguirre was very kind, and she helped me come out of my shell a little bit. But I dedicated my book to my cousin, Andrea, who's just a month older than I am. And she was as cool as ice. And I was always red and hot like a volcano. So that's why I titled it The Blonde Volcano. The second book is 'Twas the Last Day of School Before Winter Break, and that inspiration came from the elementary school I taught at for the last 12 years, and we would have a sing-along the day before the winter break, and it inspired me to put it into the rhyme. Was the night before Christmas, so that's why I titled it that. My last book I'm publishing, it's at the Illustrator right now, Nora's Noisy World, is a story about misophonia. So I noticed children in the classroom had misophonia that's undiagnosed. My older sister has it. I used her as a mock counseling session to talk about her misophonia. I realized I have a few friends who have misophonia. So we talk about the noises, the different noises that bother people. And so as teachers, we're like, who's crinkling that water bottle? Stop doing that. Or who's tapping their pencil? Okay, stop that. Those repeated noises kind of put alarm systems in our brains. So I'm going to read my 3 picture books, my children's books, because they are pretty short. And if you have young children, they can listen along, and you can look up my books on Amazon, on Barnes & Noble, and my memoirs on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Author House, the publisher I used. So The Blonde Volcano, written by Afton, ZapataScow, and illustrated by Tanya Tokar. On the first day of 3rd grade, my teacher, Miss Izaguirre, greeted our class with warmth and excitement. She was tall and thin, with dark, straight hair and blunt bangs cut above bold, friendly eyes. As she stared at me, I felt safe and seen, but felt like I was also the smallest person in the room. "Hello, I'm your teacher this year. You can call me Miss Izzy." Her voice sang like Snow White. "What's your name, dear?" Her eyes were encouraging. My mouth moved, but it squeaked like a mouse. "Annie?" "Hello, Annie. Find your name on a desk and have a seat." I knew a few students from 2nd grade, but most of them were new to me. And my illustrator did a great job putting a little mouse in every page. Miss Izaguirre's classroom was painted not only with color, but with her personality as well. As she introduced herself, I was left daydreaming about her travels around the world. A few weeks into the school year, Miss Izzy introduced us to a new spelling list. Spelling was my favorite subject. I also loved reading and imagined being confident and fearless, like many characters I'd read about in books. "Who would like to show the class how to spell the word volcano?" Miss Izaguirre scanned the room for a volunteer. I quickly looked down at my desk. Even though I felt like I knew the answer, I sat still, afraid of the attention if called on. "Annie, how about you?" Miss Izzy walked closer to my desk. I could feel her bold eyes like spotlights on me. How do I calm a storm brewing inside of me? My hands trembled as my cheeks began to burn. I couldn't speak out loud. Beads of sweat trickled from my head to my neck, down my back, and behind my knees. "Annie?" the girl said next to me. I was so frightened to speak. My mind grew blank. What was the question? "Can you spell the word volcano for us?" she repeated and paused for a moment. "At least give it a try." Her eyes encouraged my shy mind. I swallowed. I looked around the room at a dozen frozen faces. "V-O-L?" I prayed my mind wouldn't fail me now. "C-A-N-O?" I answered questionably. "That's correct," Miss Izzy shouted, then whispered near my ear, "And you, my dear, are a blonde volcano." My cheekbones burned. The girl sitting next to me whispered, "The top of your head is red too." The strands of my hair illuminated like sparklers on the 4th of July. I lowered my head into my shoulders like a tortoise and prayed for my face to quickly return to my normal pale tone. At recess, a few kids teased me about my red face and called me a hothead. I wasn't upset in class, but I sure was mad now. I wanted to tell them to bug off, but I was too embarrassed to stick up for myself. After lunch, we practiced cursive letters. Mrs. Aguirre wanted us to learn how to write her name with the letters Y, with Z, and A, and they were impossible to copy. Feeling frustrated, I wished she would just slow down for me to catch up. Start at the top like this, Miss Izzy wrote gracefully on the board, but by the time she finished her examples, I had just begun. My cheeks began to burn, and a storm was brewing inside me. Here it is again. Connect the Y and Z like this. Then up and over halfway. Backtrack and close the A. Same with the G. Now attach a U and an I. Tabletop for an R. Tabletop for another R. And an easy A. She spoke as she wrote, but the pencil felt slippery in my sweaty hand. By the time I had the first few letters, she was done with her name. So as a third grade teacher teaching, here's a side note. As a third grade teacher teaching cursive, I would always have these backtracks and tabletops. So I wanted it to be a lesson also. Ugh! A loud grunt exploded from my mouth, bolting me out of my chair. Several pairs of eyes pierced through me as Miss Aguirre walked briskly towards me with a concerned look in her eyes. Annie, not only do you turn the color of hot lava, but you erupt like a volcano too. Miss Izzy motioned me to sit down. Where did my temper come from? Embarrassed by my impulsive outburst, I simmered down in my chair while my hair flowed over my shoulders like hot lava. I'm sorry, but I just don't get it, I grumbled. Just like everything we learn, it takes practice. Practice makes progress. Let me show you. As I held my pencil, Miss Aguirre took the outside of my hand into her palm. With a light grip, cursive letters danced across the paper. Class, class, Miss Izzy chanted. Yes, yes, the students responded in unison. Let's take a moment and learn something from today that you can use all year long. We're going to take a brain break. She instructed us to put our pencils down and stand up. Whenever you get frustrated or upset, you can do this. Miss Izzy pressed her palms together and rubbed them vigorously. She took a deep breath through her nose and moved her hands above her head. As she exhaled, she arched her hands to each side and rested them on the outside of her thighs. The classroom was filled with giggles. She modeled it again, explaining how to inhale through your nose and exhale from your mouth. One more time, class. Inhale deeply for 3 counts. 1, 2, and 3. Now blow it out like you're letting out steam. I stood and practiced my breathing. After a few more breaths, all the lava from inside me fizzled out. I wasn't embarrassed or frustrated anymore. I felt calm and was smiling with the rest of the class. I learned how to pause and breathe to regulate my emotions before they could erupt. Throughout the school year, I had to remind myself to calm the volcano inside, whether it was from being shy, embarrassed, or upset. I'd stop for a brain break, breathe, and blow out fears of the volcano inside me. In time, I gained more patience with myself, confidence in learning, and a burst of knowledge that overflowed like a volcano. And that is the end of the Blonde Volcano. So now I'm going to read 'Twas the Last Day of School Before Winter Break. This is a nice, quick rhyme. 'Twas the last day of school before winter break. Not a student was learning, for goodness sake. The backpacks were hung on the coat hooks with care, in hopes that cards, gifts, and crafts be taken home and shared. Cubbies were emptied, the desks were all clean. Teachers scrambled to finish grading to avoid being reamed. And the principal in her office, wearing an ugly sweater for fun, just settled down beneath a mountain of gifts stacked one by one. While secretaries enjoyed boxes of donuts, JoJo's, and peppermint bliss, holiday cheer was wrapped up in moments like this. From out of the gym began the annual sing-along chatter. Then suddenly there, a foul smell in the air. Teachers sprang from their seats to see what was the matter. For what to their wondering noses they sneered, looking for culprits with sharp eyes they jeered. Salt dough ornaments were baked in the cafeteria next door. Sadly, looked more like the gingerbread man in famous folklore. Away to the ovens, the custodian flew like a flash. He tore open the door and threw out the burnt trash. The singing began as the students screamed louder, dreaming for snow to make snow angels in powder. The music teacher was so lively and quick. She recruited more teachers for their celebration of St. Nick. The teachers were adorned in holiday themes at their best. With headbands and neckties, they looked better than the rest. They led the students in prancing and rhymes, creating the merriest of holiday chimes. After a while, together their voices grew wilder. Who could contain the excitement from climbing higher? More rapid than tenors, the sopranos were true. The music teacher whistled out each title on cue. Now Rudolph's red nose, jingle bells, and a sleigh ride, then Santa coming to town. Holly jolly, winter wonderland, and of course Jingle Bell Rock, so no one will frown. At last, the sing-along was a tremendous success. Each grade level sang their absolute best. Dash away, filing out of the gym, students then flew back to their classrooms for one last hour to do. Then somebody noticed the clock froze exactly at 9. And they asked the principal, could we still leave on time? With a blink of her eye and a twist of her head, the principal had told us a poor tale to spread. Today, you see, we hoped 'twas the last day of school before winter break. But she had it all wrong. There was another day left to partake. I don't make the rules, the principal proclaimed, as she called out the policies and said it's a shame. The calendar days were required. It was sad, yes, but true. Couldn't she possibly grant a snappity snoo? The student stood still with a shock of expression. Another whole day? How could she correct this poor confession? The teachers began to laugh to themselves, for there's a Twinkletown list of magic to do, and won't be done by elves. The school became silent and mystically still. Everyone knew the year end had been happily fulfilled. The hall shimmered bright from ceiling to floor, with snowflakes and ornaments hung on each door. For it was evident the students were creative and kind. They spent days upon days bringing holly joy to each heart and mind. The principal spoke not a word of intention, for the spirit of the season deserved more of her attention. And laying a painted finger side of her eye, she tapped it and sighed for a better reply. For it was best to send everyone home to family and fun, so the principal decided everyone will now leave at 1. When the buses arrived, the aides blew a whistle. Away students sailed like no other dismissal. The principal yelled, "Merry Christmas!" to all the students, teachers, and staff. Have a happy holiday season and don't forget to take time to laugh. Each teacher replied with a holiday cheer. Every student responded with an explosive, "See you next year." And that is the end of "'Twas the Last Day of School Before Winter Break." And the last book I want to read is Nora's Noisy World by Afton ZapataScow. Sharing a room with a bossy older sister isn't easy, especially when she's your best friend. I have a soft spot for my sister Nora, so I do what I can to keep the peace. Ruby, make your bed. Pick up your clothes. Don't eat in the bedroom. Well, that's the easy part. My sister Nora was always annoyed by one thing or another. Certain sounds would drive her crazy. Our bedroom was filled with background music and quiet rules I didn't always understand. Nights were tough, especially when I'd rub my feet together. As if seeing red, Nora scolded, "Ruby, no, stop rubbing your feet. It sounds like sandpaper." "But Nora, it's cold," I complained, but I tried my best to be quiet and still. As a family, we wondered if Nora had super sensitive ears, big, powerful, and listening to every sound. Movie nights at home were maddening. When our family munched popcorn, Nora tried to ignore the vexing noises, but rage festered inside her. Eyes wide, hands covering her ears, she whispered, Ruby, please help. Let's go. I need to get away from the noise." She was about to blow a fuse. School was a challenging place for Nora, too. Classmates crunched apples at lunch, crinkled water bottles throughout the day, and teachers tapped long fingernails on tables and whiteboards. On the bus ride home, her brother Ben would crack sunflower seeds between his teeth, grating Nora's nerves. The kitchen magnified irritating sounds. Nora wanted to bang her head against the wall. "Mom, please," Nora cried. "Stop chopping. My ears are feeling slapped." "For heaven's sakes, Nora, find a quiet spot to go," Mom said patiently. Sounds became so overwhelming, they chased Nora out of the room with her hands cupped over her ears like she was about to hit the roof. Riding inside a car was aggravating, too. "Dad, turn up the radio. I can hear people breathing," Norma demanded through her clenched jaw. The radio couldn't be too loud, and it couldn't be too soft. Music needed to drown out rattles and clicks around her, like mysterious ones coming from the glove box. Even people Nora loved caused her blood to boil. "Do I have to go visit Grandma and Grandpa today?" Nora sighed. "Grandpa doesn't stop sniffing. Grandma's knees click and ankles pop." "Try being patient," Dad gently reminded her. Nora loved her grandparents, but sometimes it was just too much to ask. Going out to eat caused big feelings in Nora. As straws slurped, forks scraped, and teeth chomped chips, Nora would break into a cold sweat. The worst offender of annoying noises was her little brother. "Ben, close your mouth when you chew," Nora shrilled through gritted teeth. Nora's body reacted like an alarm going off. That's when I started to understand. Some sounds didn't just bother Nora, they enraged her. Nora wasn't trying to be difficult. Nora wasn't being mean. Nora's brain just heard the world a little differently. Nora has misophonia. Some sounds feel alarming, even when they're normal for everyone else. Certain noises sent infuriating signals to her brain, even though everything was safe around her. As a family, we learned how to help. Before Nora hit her breaking point, we gave warnings to prepare her for a sound. Nora found tools to help her too. Headphones, music, white noise, retreating to a little bubble of calm. Nora may have sensitive ears, but I'm learning to hear in different ways too. Some people need quiet to feel safe. Some people need solitude to feel calm. And some people, like Nora, just need a little understanding. Even though Nora lived in a noisy world, she found ways to soften the repetitive sounds around her. Sharing a room with an older sister still isn't easy. Nora is still my best friend, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And that's the end of that book. And I had a note for grown-ups about how some children experience the world more loudly than others. And misophonia is a condition where certain everyday sounds, like chewing, tapping, breathing, repetitive noises, they feel uncomfortable and overwhelming. And sometimes the sounds just don't just annoy, but they cause strong emotional reactions where they're just like enraged with the repetitive sound. It triggers everyone a little differently. So support and patience and understanding can make a big difference for people with misophonia. And maybe you are also someone that cannot stand forks scraping against plates, water bottles crunching, just like a faucet dripping. Last night I had crickets chirping, and I woke up going, how am I going to find that cricket? Popcorn chomping. So we have different ways to help people through their challenges like misophonia. So those are my books that I've been working on. I have a desire to publish many other novels. In my high school years, I wrote many novels. They were mostly romance novels, so I wanted to be the next Danielle Steele. I wrote books like Mixed Blood, Forbidden Friendship, Prerequisites to Promise, Tainted Rain. So just different kinds of short stories and novels that I need to get out and rewrite and see if I can find an agent or publisher. But thank you for coming along with me on my journey as I dream of becoming a future published author again, and how I'm exploring this publishing world. Many people have reached out and said, hey, we'd like to have you on our podcast, but it will cost you this much money. Or, hey, we'd like to write about you, but it's going to cost you this much money. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to spend any more money on it. And I thought, well, I'll just do my own marketing and see how that goes. But if you have any recommendations, stick them in the comments. So thank you for hanging in there with me as I read you my stories and talk a little bit about my journey. Have a great day.